Welcome to the review.
So a while ago, MKBHD published his review for the iPhone 11 Pro. I thought the video, like any of his other work, was really good. But something that stood out to me in particular more than any of his other videos was the intro on this one. I think it was ridiculously good. Not sure exactly how I would describe it, but it almost had this like levitation feel to it, and it almost felt otherworldly. Pretty sure it was Brandon and or Vin behind the camera. I think they did a great job. Brandon, Vin or Marquez, if any of you are watching this, I'm a big fan. I hope you're fine with me making this video and kind of breaking down the intro. I tried to replicate it for the first time just days after the review was published, but I kind of failed when I first tried it, so I never really shared it with anybody. But then I decided I would give it another go due to the current situation, because I have all this time and I wanted to see if I could make something even 10% as good. So I'm going to be documenting that process. That's what this video is all about. So the intro looks super crazy, but if you play it back a couple of times, you'll realize it's actually not very complicated. Here's how I break it down. So first you've got to realize that they're not actually shooting the intro straight, they're shooting it like a flat lay. Here's a basic diagram. I may or may not have drawn it. So basically this is the background, here is the flow, this is where the camera is, and this is where the phone is placed. Except it was shot not like this, but like this. It was shot like a flat lay, and this is a very important decision. It's because of this particular decision that they're able to take out the flow and the props and make it look like the phone is kind of levitating. It'll make more sense once we get to the execution, but that's basically how the first half of the intro was done, and the second half was done in post. It's basically masking. At least that's how I broke it down, that's how I recreated it. Now when I say I want to recreate it, I mainly intend to recreate the movement of the shot, not necessarily the entire set, the props or the color or anything like that. I'm just mainly trying to get the basic concept right.
Alright, now that you've kind of understood, or at least hopefully understood, the theory behind the shot, it's kind of time to execute. As I said, we have to shoot a flat lay. So this is where we're going to be doing that. This is where I do my flat lays because I don't really have much space elsewhere. So this is kind of the setup. I'm using my tripod. I've just laid it flat like so, and then I've mounted the camera and pointed it downwards a straight 90 degrees to get a perfect flat lay. I don't advise do shooting this way. Do it at your own risk. Don't do it unless you have a very strong tripod. I don't, which is why I'm using books as counterweights, because otherwise the tripod will definitely tip and there will be disasters. But yeah, essentially your first step here is to decide. Oh, by the way, I'm shooting on the A6300 as usual. You already know that, but for those of you that are new to the channel, A6300 plus Sigma 30. So the first step is to kind of decide what you want your backdrop to be. So I kind of wanted to go for like a red and white color palette, if you will, for this particular shot. So that's why I'm using this red chart paper or cardboard, and it's intentionally crumbled. I'll tell you exactly why a little later. But I'm using that because I'm going for like a red and white sort of color palette. And then the next thing you want to decide is where you want to place your phone. I decided I would put mine in the dead center, so I'm just using this iPhone 7 box as the kind of stand to lay the phone on. And I'm shooting an Android. I don't really have 11 Pro. I don't think it's a good phone, but I don't like iPhones in general, but whatever. This is an Android. This is the Poco phone with the Capes India skin. Shout out to Capes India. Now the next thing you want to decide is what is going to be your floor, or rather act as your floor, plus the props that you want to use on it. So I decided to go with this kind of I don't know what you'd even call this design. It's just leftover laminate that I have. That's what I'm using. The next thing you want to kind of figure out is the dressing or the props that you're going for. In my opinion, that's really what sells the effect, that what sells the shot. So I'm using this red guitar tuner because I don't really have anything else that's red and super small. I want something that's red because, as I said, I'm going for red and white color palette. And then I'm using a basic notebook, which I actually have in that particular opened up position using a toothpick. And all of this is stuck to this cardboard or laminate using blue tack. I love blue tack, man. It's something I recently discovered and it's honestly life changing. So next, once you've kind of stuck your props to your floor or your piece of cardboard or whatever it is, you kind of wanna lay it like so that you can shit 1 second. Right, so you want to basically lay the thing down like so, and the goal here is to kind of make it look like you're shooting straight up and not down, and for that you gotta like really use the right props and make sure you don't go overboard at it at the same time. So it has to look like, basically, as I said, you're shooting straight up and not down. So it's really the props that kind of sell the effect. So find props that you can stick and ones that are not too big, because otherwise it'll be hard to stick. And then I also finally use this like playing cards, or 2 sets of playing cards, which are from Jack Daniels, to kind of fill the frame. This is optional, but like, you know, MKBHD obviously has used a lot of props in his shot, but I kind of wanted to go keep it minimal, plus I don't really have much that I could find. Hence this is kind of the set dressing that I decided to go with. And finally, I used a stool to kind of make things easier for myself. I'm just laying the thing like so on the stool, and that way it's easier for me. And really after this, all I did is I started rolling on the camera, and then I had somebody take off the playing cards out of frame, and then I removed this out of frame, and that's it. That's the first half of the intro. The second half is done in post. We'll talk about that next. Well, in terms of lighting, I've decided to just like go with like super flat lighting, because that will help with masking. If you want to do something complex, go ahead, but basically I'm just using one aperture LED light and I'm bouncing it off the wall there, so I kind of get like a even flat light.
Alright, the edit. Let's jump into Final Cut Pro and I'll kind of break down the edit for you. Here are 2 other takes that I shot earlier, but I don't think those turned out that great, so we're gonna get rid of them and focus only on the final take, which is this. I've already edited it. Editing it from scratch again would just take too much time, so I'll just skim through and kind of show you what's going on here. The first half of the intro doesn't actually require much work. You just have to cut out any excess video that you may have. Second half is what we'll kind of focus on. So in order to get like the rotation that Marquez did, first you need to separate the phone from the background. In other words, you have to do some masking. So to do that, just go into the effects panel, look for draw mask. I'm pretty sure Premiere has an equivalent to this. Drop the effect on the clip and just cut the phone out. I'm only going to do a rough cut here to just show you, but obviously the more time you spend on it, the better your cut is going to be. That being said, don't worry about making it 100% perfect. You just have to aim for like 95-98% accuracy, and then you can kind of hide the imperfections by adding a little bit of negative feather. My mask actually was pretty shit, but adding -5 on the feather hid the imperfections. Once you've done the mask, you'll see you've cut out the phone, and now you can basically go ahead and apply a rotation keyframe in order to rotate just the phone. Now remember I said I intentionally chose to crumble the red background. It's because in MKBHD shot, if you notice closely, you'll see that the first half of the intro has a textured white backdrop, whereas the second half, where the phone is rotating, the background turns into a solid, not white, but almost gray backdrop. So we're kind of doing the same here. I didn't have a textured red, so I just crumbled the paper to give it some texture. And for the part where I've done the masking, which is where the phone rotates, I'm going to be using a solid red background, and the red basically I just color picked from the red backdrop that I used earlier. For the text, again, it's the same thing. I've just keyframed a basic rotation and had it match the movement of the phone. Nothing too complex. You can auto track it if you have a plugin that does it, but I do not, so I just did it manually. And then as a finishing touch, I added the black bars, added a dolly out keyframe, also used the same music as Marquez, because why not? I love it when YouTube gives me a copyright strike and disables monetization. No, but seriously, if you're going to be doing this, please at least use a different track, like at least bring something new to the table. I obviously just use the same music because I really wanted to just like kind of recreate and make it look like a MKBHD intro as much as possible. But if I was actually going to use this, obviously I would use a different track. And yeah, that's about it. There it is, MKBHD's iPhone 11 Pro intro. I think it turned out pretty decent. Mostly it was just a lot of problem solving and a little bit of common sense and just a little bit of technique. I don't really think it's that complex. You can quite easily replicate it, honestly. But yeah, I enjoyed the process and I want to do more stuff like this. So if you're new around here, maybe consider subscribing. Let me know actually what you think of the intro. Did I do good? Was it good enough? Or if I was a complete disgrace to MKBHD and his work and his team. But if you enjoyed watching this video or if you found it helpful, give it a like. If you did not, vote it down. Let me know in the comments why I didn't like it. If you're new around here, consider subscribing for more videos. It's been Suraj. Thank you for watching. Take it easy and stay devoted.
Repetition, sharp and blaze. Like mini Mishima serving up every single plate. The hottest in the season, even summer looks away.